It's a great pleasure to welcome Matt Jenkins, who he says he's not an author, but he is. He's written a lot of books, and we're going to talk a little bit about them. And we're also joined by his daughter Isabella, who was the inspiration really of your last book.
Yeah, in fact, she's the inspiration of all of the books. In fact, both Isabella and my son William, they're the stars of the show. My wife and I, we're just background characters in all of the books. So yeah, she's the inspiration behind everything in this.
Where did the idea, because everyone says, oh, there's a book in all of us, but so few of us actually get to do something. What inspired you to just begin and actually put pen to paper and go the whole way to get it published?
I think it's a combination of factors. So I've always been creative. I see myself more illustrator than author. It's the painting and bringing the character to life that I enjoy the most. The true inspiration was there wasn't a book on the market. In my head, I like to think I was first to market with a character that leads with a limb difference, a particular disability, if you want to put a label on it. I don't like that word personally. But we couldn't find anything when Isabella was born back in 2007 on the market at all. And lots of friends just said, write one. And it was my son that actually inspired me to put ink to paper and kind of create characters, and then that was turned into what was a very clunky first version of Chops, and then they just evolved from there. So it was the fact that there wasn't anything, that's what drew me to want to do something, the ability to basically create something that kids could look at and say, that's me, and it morphed from there essentially.
So when you see these books now in print, Isabella, are you thinking, that's me? And what are you thinking when you talk to your friends about, that's me in a book?
I think it's cool.
What do your friends say because let's be honest, none of us, the closest I've got to a book is being in my school report. That's probably the best thing I've done in that. So to actually have something written where you A, are the inspiration, but B, very much a part of that. How involved were you in say, when, your dad came to you and started talking about different things? Did you share in any of the ideas in the writing?
Yeah, I gave him certain ideas and I told him, like, maybe you could include this and like give him ideas.
Even the drawing of the character, I can't draw noses. So when we first sat down, we had just a sketch pad and we were drawing all these versions of a face. Yeah. And we settled on the triangle nose because it was the easiest to draw.
But you're quite an artist yourself though, aren't you? That sort of creative flair has gone through the family.
Yeah.
What's your favourite medium for art? What do you like drawing? Just watercolours, pastels, just sketches?
I think just drawing whatever comes to mind. Just put your pen on paper and just go for it.
You're very into digital as well, aren't you?
Yeah.
I can't do anything on an iPad or an iPhone.
So do you use one of those digital pens?
I use my phone at the moment, but I am saving to get one of those, yeah.
And you're in year 10 now, right? So
yeah.
This is a big year. For you, and I know we're slightly digressing here, but it's just great to hear different people's stories because there's people maybe just coming up behind you, maybe year 8 and 9 and getting towards year 10. How are you feeling about everything, given the fact of the lack of access to schools and things like that? How are you feeling about the coming year?
I think it can be a bit stressful, but I'm just trying to take every day one step at a time.
And what about storytelling in your house? I can imagine growing up, it was, given what you now do, it was a very key part of growing up. First of all, Isabella, and I'll come to you, Matt, but first of all, Isabella, when you were hearing stories, was it just something you just thought, well, that's just completely normal, that's what everybody does? But what impact do you think that had on you?
As in, like, with the Chops books, or...
Well, partly with the Chops books, but just generally hearing stories and being read to and being part of that reading process, which, we were talking about going digital. It's so easy to go digital, but actually just to get back to a page-turning book, But I guess for you, it's just normal.
Yeah.
Do you remember your first book? It's probably a Chops book, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, one of those probably.
And for you, Matt, it must be lovely to know that you're actually inspiring a generation of people to actually read and to open a book.
Yeah, reading, storytelling, it was the fabric of who we were as a family. Every night before bed, that was story time. And there were certain books. When I knew I had to read a book and Isabella was going to read a book, we had to go and buy them off Amazon. We didn't have any more in the house of the Chops books, so I've just funded myself there, having to buy my own book. But there were books like the Wibbly Pig books were huge for particularly my son, who's kind of standing in the wings. I forget the name of it now, but there was a book about the bear snores on. Kind of these were the things that we latch on to as a family. And every now and again, the kids would surprise us because they would go and choose the book every night, and a Chops book might come out, and we'd read it, and I'd think, oh, that's better than I thought it was. And it was nice to read those books. And I think that the most surprising thing for me was the day that I got sent some social media footage of kids going to World Book Day dressed as Chops characters.
Wow!
And there was that light bulb moment of, that's why I did this kind of whole thing. That's it's fulfilled its purpose.
What an
essentially.
amazing thing. Well, let's talk about the Chops books, because actually we've got a video here of you, Isabella. Now, try not to cringe too much.
Brace yourself.
We all hate watching ourselves on TV, I know, but this is you reading a small section of Chops My Way. Here we go.
Hi, I'm Isabella. I'm who the Chops books were based on, and today I'm going to be reading Chops My Way. There is something incredible about being different, about being unique. While it may be annoying to get all these questions, like, can you do this and can you do that? What better way to take away their curiosity than to simply say, I do it my way, and in my own time. You see, since I was born, I have proven to everyone there is nothing I cannot do. I learned to eat my food, dress my dolls. I moved on to cutting my own dinner and dressing myself. Tying my shoes was tricky, but I managed it anyway. And sports came naturally too. From football, swimming, gymnastics, and riding my bike. I even mastered roller skates too. Technology was pretty easy, but music was a little harder. I still did it anyway, and in my own time. And in my own way. You see, being different isn't tricky. It's really kind of cool. We're all unique, really, but my little lamb doesn't mean I can't do things. I just do it in my own way and in my own time.
Isabella, thank you for reading that so beautifully. And for you, because it is you, isn't it? You know, that whole thing of celebrating difference. And, you know, we touched on this a little bit beforehand about celebrating difference, but also dealing with, I guess you would say, the elephant in the room, you know, in terms of answering those questions before people ask you. Was that your intention?
Yeah, we've noticed all the way through Isabella's childhood that sense of people noticing the difference. In fact, kind of before Isabella was born, and then when Isabella was born, we would say that's the moment that our blinkers were taken off. Suddenly you start to see things that were in the world that we may have not noticed. But children are inquisitive. They have lots of questions. So this was a confident way of saying it's okay to take those and just put a confident answer across, because kids will find a way. They're resilient. And the Paralympians this morning are a testament of what you can master and go on to achieve.
So, Isabella, when people say to you, you know, they notice a difference, do you say, and they ask a question, do you say, you can read about it in this book, it's available on Amazon?
Should
No, I mean, I should.
You should, and you could be on commission.
Yeah. I kind of just, if they ask me a question like, how do you do this? I do it your way, but just different in a way.
And it's a lovely concept, my way, because, you know, and the reality, as you said on the VT there, you know, it is about each individual, irrespective of any difference they might have. Everyone does everything their way. So it's just your way. And I know that diversity and inclusion is what you do when you're not writing. So this is something that's clearly very much a part of you. How do you see writing and storytelling being intertwined with that beyond what you've done?
Yeah, so the world has changed dramatically outside of illustrating, authoring, the CHOPS activity. I do a lot of D&I activity, diversity and inclusion activity, and I always talk about the difference that 2012 made on the world. That was the point, particularly for disability, where people embraced the difference. Kind of, they saw that you could achieve great things, and I credit the Paralympics for that. Kind of, they've shifted the mindset of the majority of people. And what we see now is many more books on the market, kind of, so where there was nothing in 2007, and in fact you look at people like Kerry Burnell, who was one of the first mainstream people to be on CBeebies, got a huge angry backlash for being different on TV. Now it's embraced, and people encourage books, and it's all about being different. So the narrative and the mindset has shifted very dramatically.
And it's great, isn't it, where we see difference, whether it be, as we're going to see today with Bryony, with Melissa, with our Paralympians, so many different walks of life. And, in our Reach Insights videos that we recorded earlier on in the year, again, we deliberately talked to people from all walks of life. Have you seen any difference, Isabella, during your relatively short life? Have you seen a difference to the way that people treat you because we see it more in the media and we see it out there more?
People have it's like, I think when people see it, they're like, oh, okay, and then they just move on, because it's became more, I don't know what the word is, but it's around more, and people are
It became more mainstream, effectively, didn't it? Yeah.
I think people like to say normal. You're not normal. Difference is normal. There isn't such a thing as normal.
Normal. What a bizarre word to use, because as you quite rightly say, what is? I just want to talk a little bit about Reach families, because we've got many new families who've been watching us this morning, and it's great that everyone's joining us. We really appreciate you being here today. For people who are just coming into the family and things, tell us very briefly about your Reach journey and the future and how Reach has helped you.
So Reach has been huge for us. As parents of a newborn child, a firstborn in our instance, we knew nothing about Isabella being born with a difference until she was actually born, and it is a huge shock to the system. I remember saying to myself, or reflecting on myself, this narrative leading up to the birth was, it's fine as long as she's happy and she's healthy, 10 fingers, 10 toes, life will be good. And then we were presented with, well, hang on, there aren't 10 fingers. And Reach were the first people that were there for us in that moment. So it provided us with knowledge and insight and a community that we needed to get our heads around these things. And that's when CHOPS came on the scene. We wanted to pay back. So every CHOPS book has a reference to Reach and the work that it's done within it. And they're growing, they're evolving, they're becoming more mainstream in the way that what we've just talked about. The mindset of the general public has shifted as well.
Which is, it's so refreshing. Even in the years I've been with Reach, you can just see the difference, and the kind of conversations that are happening are quite different. We just had a quick question in from Ellie. Thanks to Ellie, Maeve. I really appreciate all your questions, and everybody else, keep them coming in as well. Just to clarify, you wrote the book, but you did have quite an influence, Isabella, yeah?
Yeah.
And you corrected him when he said something, no, it didn't actually happen like that.
I can't remember, but I think, yeah.
Quite right. You've got to keep your parents in check sometimes. Make sure they're doing the right thing. What's next?
Oh, I don't know. People keep saying I haven't written a book since 2016, largely because my main work has kept me busy. And it's interestingly, as the kids have got older, it's harder to write storybooks at the age that I used to. So we were joking in the car on the way up around, do we need to write a teenage version of CHOPS? And that would mean we'd have to create drama and sass and sarcasm and makeup, which I don't know whether I can illustrate that, but maybe there's a collaboration in us. A digital version, maybe, I don't know.
I think definitely some collaboration, because at the end of the day, when you're a teenager, you've got everything with being a teenager. You've got GCSEs, and you've got difference, and you've got a multitude of other things in this digital world in which we live. So maybe some form of coping mechanism. There you go. There's your challenge for next year.
I take it.
See how you do with that. But it's been absolutely fantastic to talk to you today. And I just really want to finish off really in terms of what would you say to, although Isabella's been on the fringes of your work, but to someone who's looking at writing, maybe there's a Reach youngster, or maybe there's a Reach parent who has a youngster who's shown an interest in writing, what would you say?
I think it links to something Isabella said. I can't remember if it was here or back in the green room earlier. She said, just put pen to paper, be brave, be courageous. There's nothing to fear. And for me, writing just needs to be, it could be as simple as 24 sentences. A children's book typically has 24 pages. So that's all you need to find. So be brave. There's a story, just kind of bring it to life. Start writing, start experimenting.
And what do you think about coming from the approach of your own personal experiences for you, for example, as a family, versus coming up with complete fiction, just something completely out there?
I think it's down to each individual person. I needed the creative identity of what my kids were going through. So whether it's the rascally rabbits, we just bought rabbits and they were causing mayhem, and kind of it was about capturing that, or kind of the cat burglar was based on a real story of, I came home late from work one night and I didn't find any sausages on my plate, and it was because the cat had actually come in the house and stolen them. And kind of like these are real things that happened, and kind of like it's okay to reflect them in a storybook because kids can associate with that and it draws them in. But you can make it up. It could be about unicorns and rainbows. Kind of people are interested.
Do you still do that when something happens? Do you just write it down in a little book somewhere? Because I hear about comedians and authors and creative people who suddenly get this idea and they always have a book in their pocket and they just write it down. They don't know whether they're ever going to use it, but it's there just in case.
Yeah, and even down to illustration, like you're wearing kind of Night Before Christmas stuff today. I was doodling on a pad that Reach had given us out there, and kind of creating characters and kind of experimenting with how we would reflect Chops today as a teenager. So it's kind of, if you see something, it's writing it down or capturing a little doodle, those kind of things always.
And I asked our Paralympians this earlier on, but is there anything that you would say to your younger self when you were starting the journey of writing books? Is there any advice you'd have given yourself looking back?
I don't think I was that young when I started writing books. So middle-aged self. Have courage. Kind of, it takes courage to be brave and put yourself out there, kind of particularly in the social media world where you can get a lot of criticism, but there are more people that will embrace you, particularly within a community like Reach. Kind of, it's be brave, have courage. Kind of, the world will want what you've got.
And Isabella, I want to come back to Reach because that's what today's all about, being the family day. What does Reach mean to you, being a Reach child, now a Reach teenager, growing up through Reach, the support and the family nature and everything else? What's it meant to you over these years?
I think it's meant a lot. The community is really good. Yeah.
Just the fact it is a great community, and have you stayed in good contact with people during lockdown? Not massively.
No.
I think it's knowing it's there.
Yeah.
Kind of, we've always seen Reach as it's there. It's a place we can dip into. It's a place to see like-minded individuals, kind of outward appearance in the same way. So kind of we've always used Reach in the manner of kind of something we are part of in the greater scheme, and kind of you come in and out of it when you need it. Kind of you contribute to it when you need to. We like the online forums when kind of somebody asks a question and you're like, oh, we've been there.
Yeah.
Kind of this is what we've seen. Kind of try this. Kind of here's a suggestion. That kind of stuff.
And I think that illustrates exactly what Reach is all about. Thank you so much for reading so beautifully earlier on. Absolutely brilliant. And thank you for those Chops books. Just wonderful. I know that there'll be many families out there. If they haven't got them, they will be getting them. But more importantly, the fact that you're representing the Reach community, I think is absolutely fantastic. So thank you so much indeed for coming in today.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.